Is BARD bad after nerfs? No, I don't think BARD is a bad after nerf. So BARD got nerfed, they nerfed his damage quite a lot, but majority of BARD's damage generally comes from items and the runes as much as it did come from his meat auto attacks themselves. I still find myself getting games where I get above 1000 damage a minute, which is absurd for a support champion that's not actually itemizing into pure damage while we are actually buying tank items, right? So I still think BARD is absolutely fine. The rune page we are currently playing on, at least for me, is the Electrocute Taxivation rune page that we all have all known so far. One thing that a lot of people might be asking about is Jack of all trades here, because it's getting nerfed next patch. What they're nerfing is that they're nerfing from 25 ability power to 20 ability power when you are at 10 stacks, right? Which means that it gets 5 less AP, which means its gold value goes from 1000 gold from a minor rune to 900 gold from a minor rune. This is completely fine. The main reason we take it is the 10 haste. The ability power is just a bonus. It's still 900 gold from minor rune, which is absurdly strong. We're still gonna do this. There is a few instances where you can argue Cosmic Insight with a few different builds, but we're gonna talk a bit about that later on. But besides that, it's Electrocute, Cheap Shot, Deep Ward, Treasure Hunter, Jack of all trades, free boots, attack speed, movement speed, scaling health. The reason we are not going something like Taste of Blood is because Cheap Shot is just an absurd amount of damage, and Taste of Blood got nerfed quite hard a year or 2 years ago, so it doesn't actually heal that much, and the cooldown is on 20 seconds, while Cheap Shot's cooldown is at 4 seconds. And it's really easy to proc it because it's like auto attack with Meep into Q or Q into auto attack. Either of those will proc Cheap Shot, so really easy to proc it. Then another question I'm often getting is, why do we go Treasure Hunter instead of Relentless Hunter? The reason for this is Relentless Hunter is actually one of the worst hunters for BARD because it gives us the only stat we basically have too much of. It gives us out of combat movement speed. We get so much of that already from Chimes or from Deadman's Blade and other sources. So we really don't need more movement speed out of combat. The only movement speed we do like is movement speed in combat. So we don't like this rune at all. You can argue some games for Ultimate Hunter, but we're getting so much haste already in the build that if we are level 16 with this build, we're gonna have 40 seconds cooldown on our ult. And then Ultimate Hunter will maybe bring it down to 35 seconds. But I don't think that justifies it over accelerating our itemization as much as Treasure Hunter does. We're no longer using Biscuit Delivery since it got nerfed quite hard. We are instead going Jack of all trades. And then there's of course Cosmic Insight. Cosmic Insight can be good in one of the builds we are using. This is a bit foreshadowing for the later in the video, where Cosmic Insight could have quite a high value. I think this is a preference. I think they're both really good, and it just kind of comes down to playstyle as well, what you like the most. Lower cooldown in your items / summoners versus lower cooldown on your abilities, whatever you kind of prefer here. Besides that, the reason we run this rune page instead of other rune pages is because it's just so much better. Some people would be like, oh, well, if we only care about the haste, why don't we just go Transcendence, right? With the sorcery, then we could do this, right? This is more damage, Transcendence Scourge. Because Scourge will proc off of your every Meep auto attack or every Q, which is quite a lot of damage. You can do that, it's fine, but losing out on Magical Footwear specifically is a big hurt. Magical Footwear accelerates our build so hard because we don't have to spend 300 gold on boots, while they also make it so we can sit on tier 1 boots for a very long time because of the extra 10 movement speed our tier 1 boots gets. The same thing is why we don't do something like Resolve, why we could do Conditioning, Overgrowth to get tanky as well, or Bone Plating to survive the more all-in early game lanes like Pyke and Camille. Then they also buffed Guardian not that long ago, so Guardian could be used as well, and I don't think it's necessarily bad. I do think it's worse though. I think something like Guardian just sits on not a very high win rate compared to something like Electrocute. Like if we quickly change the scene here, I'll show you what I mean. Guardian is sitting only at 48.3% win rate with a very low pick rate as well. Electrocute is also not the greatest win rate, but like 49.49 with a 91% pick rate. Obviously, when it's this high, win rate is always deemed to be a bit lower because everyone and their mother is using it. I personally think Electrocute is really the only real choice. Guardian can be used, Spellbook can be used, but you're always kind of making it harder for yourself picking these two choices over picking something like Electrocute. If you are going to play with Guardian though, you would probably do something like Guardian, then you would do Font of Life, then you would do Conditioning. Unless you're into a heavy all-in lane, then you can do Bone Plating. And then you do Overgrowth, and then you will have to do Inspiration because the same reason earlier, you need the free boots. And then it's attack speed, movement speed, And either flat health or scaling health. Flat health would be into engage lanes, and scaling health would be into other lanes, right? So that's something you want to do. I think Spellbook is bad. I'll be blunt. They nerfed the rune a million times. They sped up the game to start basically a minute before, but you still get your summoner at the original time, which means you get it very late into the game. I wouldn't recommend Spellbook besides if you're memeing and want to try to steal objectives, but the smite was also nerfed, so that's hard to do. Then there's the Dusk and Dawn build we did a few months ago with Press the Attack. Dusk and Dawn got nerfed / buffed, depending on how you look at it. It got nerfed for BARD though, because they took a lot of the raw stats and then gave it a flat healing every time you proc the Sheen effect. But since that heal scales off of 80 AP, then BARD doesn't really benefit too much because he doesn't get those stats. So it was just a pure nerf for BARD. When you are playing with a BARD, you basically always go Flash, obviously. You always go Flash. I always go Ignite because Ignite helps proccing Electrocute. Auto attack me Ignite would be Electrocute proc. Can catch off people very easily, but you can also easily do heal flash. That's completely valid as well. The movement speed heal provides gives you a lot of utility and a lot of opportunity around the map. Both options are super good. Again, it comes down to preference. Like, I don't think statistically one is a lot better than the other, and I don't think any of the two are bad in any way, so that really just comes down to preference, right? There can be arguments about exhaust sometimes into champions like Diana or Kennen, Kiana. These all-in champions where they do all the damage to the ults, and then you can exhaust and slow it down. Most of the time, exhaust is just better on 80 carries in those type of instances. Deathfire Touch is completely dead with all the nerfs. The only real champions that can use it nowadays are the dot champions or select few champions like Senna that doesn't really have a good rune page, and then she can use it. But yeah, it got nerfed a million times. Damage, everything about it just got nerfed. Then the big part about what we are here for, right? The item section. BARD had a lot of items he could build. A lot of those items are kind of dead now. If we start off with the more classic one, we will do Deadman's Plate nowadays into Locket. The reason we do Locket nowadays is because they buffed it. 30 armor, 30 MR now instead of 25. So this is just really valuable for 2200 gold. Then we do Mandate after Locket. Mandate was reworked to being more damagey for BARD, but also way more ability haste. It provides 20 ability haste for your Q and your R, and then also the flat 15 haste, so it gives 35 haste, which is absurd. We were testing out doing like Deadman's Blade Mandate and then going Flex, but I found that we were way too squishy going Deadman's Blade into Mandate. Too low HP, no magic resist forever. I didn't like it. I think this is a lot better. It feels better. The last item here is Flex. It can be frozen hard if you against a lot of auto attackers and you want to make your team tankier. This down here is the flex block, right? It can be frozen hard, it can be Randuin's if you're versus crit and you need to be tankier yourself. It can be Knight's Vow if you don't need that much armor but you want to make a hyper carry tankier. It can be Abyssal Mask if you don't need that much magic resist but you want to add more damage. It can be Kanegrugen if they have a ton of AP damage and you want to be tankier. It can be Yaksho if they have a lot of split damage and we want a bit more armor, MR, and of course HP. Then Yaksho can be an opportunity. This is a bit iffy though, because it's very expensive for last item 3200, and you're basically gonna sit on a giant spell for a very long time. So it can feel a bit weird, but it can work. Then you have something like Force of Nature. This is if you are into a lot of magic damage, dot or CC, then Force of Nature can feel good. I'm not too fond of it because we kind of waste the movement speed on it because we already have so much movement speed. And then boots choice is either armor boots or magic resist boots, depending on choice. Don't think about this as magic resist boots. They're tenacity boots. So on-hit boots or versus a ton of CC. If you find a very rare game where you're like, oh, I actually don't need any of these, feel free to take something like Ionian so you get lower summoner haste and a bit more ability haste. Ability haste you don't really need in the build since you have so much with just these two items combined. And of course, jack of all trades. Then of course, in a build like this, we always do Blood Song. So this is the standard build. This is what I've been doing a lot. But then we could also do something where we don't build Deadman's Blade at all, where we do Locket into Mandate and then Flex. And here you also do Slay. This is the where you can go Cosmic Insight instead of jack of all trades because you have Locket first item, you use Slay as well. And then it's Flex, and it's the same like Flex items as before, right? You have everything from Frozen Heart, Randuin, Abyssal, Koenig, Force of Nature, Yaksho, and so on and so on and so on, right? The same reasoning as before. This is a cheaper build. You're peeling a lot more with this. You do way less damage. I'll be very blunt with you all. Not having Deadman's Blade, not having Blood Song, you do so little damage, and to me, I didn't find it too fun. It wasn't a bad build at all, but it didn't feel like I was playing BARD the way I love playing BARD. But just want to mention it because this is completely valid. You also have something like Mikhail's in this build, especially if you go Cosmic Insight, right? Getting Mikhail's is super decent and also cheap item, right? I forgot to mention in this build, we often would buy Swifties because we don't have Deadman's Blade, so we need that movement speed here. We can still go Mercs or Tapies if that's really good, but we never pass Swifties with Deadman's Blade because we end up getting too much movement speed. We never really want to get above 450 movement speed because then we hit the soft cap and then we waste gold. We don't want to waste gold as much as we can because we don't have unlimited gold. We only get a lot of gold until we basically hit first item. Then that's not a lot of gold at all. And then if we talk about the graveyard of items that we used to build in a lot of different games, Celestial, we don't really want to use anymore. Dusk and Dawn, we don't want to use anymore. I'm just mentioning from former videos because some people will have watched those and think back and then play that, right? Then that's the Black Cleaver build. Black Cleaver got changed, so it no longer works at all. We achieved through going Deathfire Touch, but Deathfire Touch is always magical damage now, I believe, so it can't be used to proc Black Cleaver anymore. Then we have the Enchanter build with Helia and Dusk and Dawn. Helia got nerfed quite hard, which means that we no longer go Helia Diadem at all. So these items all dead. Protoplasm is getting quite hard nerfed next patch. So in my opinion, that's dead. Redemption got nerfed while they removed the HP, so this is just a bad item on BARD. It doesn't give any stats we kind of like besides ability haste. Vandal Pipe was an item BARD used to love, but they made it a lot more expensive. 300 gold more expensive, and it's sitting at only 20 armor, 20 magic resist. So it's 100 gold more expensive than Locket, and it provides 10 less armor and 10 less magic resist. It's giving no stats, and attack speed is not really a stat that your teammates need a lot of the time. It's kind of like a stat that could feel nice to have, but most champions don't care about attack speed, and the champions that do will naturally get attack speed on their own. So it's an item I never really buy. Then there's stuff like Dark Seal, right? BARD doesn't have the greatest AP ratios, so I don't like Dark Seal, I don't like Magi's. Let's say you're smurfing and you know you're gonna sit on 10 stacks, sure, it can be good, right? But for the average player that's playing in the elo he's supposed to be in, these items are never really gonna feel that great. Then you have anti-heal options. Anti-heal in itself is not really bad. The issue here is that there's no good items for BARD, right? There's Thornmail, it actually gives stats that you want, but you have to get auto-attacked for it to do anything. Morello is very easy for you to apply, but you're paying a lot of gold for a lot of ability power that you don't really need at all. So you're paying 2800 gold for 350 HP, 15 haste, and then the anti-heal. Which means that 350 HP, that's 900 gold, and 15 ability haste, that's 750 gold. So you're getting 1650 gold worth of stats that you'd like, but you're paying 1200 gold in stats you don't like, which means you're wasting 1200 gold. You're basically paying 1200 gold then for the 40% anti-heal. In these games where you feel like you desperately need anti-heal, try to use your Ignite as the anti-heal, because this never feels good. Then you have items like Sorelia, same reason as Redemption. Feels horrible to buy because it doesn't provide HP or armor or MR. It's hard to get away with this item because BARD is super low range, so getting an item that doesn't make him tankier feels eh. Then we have something like Serpent's Fang. Serpent's Fang is still, in theory, really good. But since we already buy Mandate, which doesn't provide any HP, it's hard to justify another item that does not provide any HP at all. And it's really hard to pair Mandate and Serpent's Fang. And I think Mandate always outvalues Serpent's Fang, even in games where there's a ton of shields, because it's hard to ever say that 35 haste is worse than anti-shield. Because that 35 haste will allow you to just get so many more ults out and so much more Qs off. Then we have Redemption, Bloodletter, Riftmaker, the Masquerade build, right? That's a year or two ago, but that's not really used anymore. You have something like Terminus that you also paired with Yaksho. That's not really used anymore. Experimental Hexblade got nerfed for ranged champions, so that's not used anymore. Rapid Fire Cannon has not been used forever, but some people still like it, but like it's just not good because it used to have quite a high flat damage, which is why it was good. It did like 120 damage and it had a funny interaction with Deadman's Blade. All of that was removed. Now it's 40 damage. You don't really like attack speed, you don't like critical strike chance, so you like the movement speed, but that's a lot of gold for one stat line you like, and then you like the range, but the damage is kind of right? Warmux used to be good back when it gave you a ton of movement speed. That was nerfed / completely removed, so Warmux is no longer good. Hard Steel used to be good, but that was nerfed very hard. Even with the recent buff, it's still nowhere good enough to justify it at all. Then you have something like Unending Despair, which in theory could be good. It's like 650 range, and your auto attack range is 500, so you technically could get use cases out of this. But the issue here is when you stay in company, you weave in and out. If it hits down to 0 second, where it will then heal you. If no one is in range, it heals you 0, and the cooldown still goes off, right? So you can waste it very, very easily, so it's actually hard to get proper uses out of this. Then we have Static Shift, which was really good on BARD in some use cases because it gave you 3 charges that then reset on a takedown. So it gave you a lot of damage in team fights, and it gave you split push where you could fix wave states. It's now an on-hit item. BARD has no on-hits. BARD's meeps are not on-hits. They are on attack. So Static Shift does not do anything at all. So this item is dead on BARD now. Rylai's has never been good on BARD because slows don't stack, so that item is also just really bad because you're just paying purely for the stats, and a lot of those are ability power. Then you have something like Seeks. That can be use cases for Seeks because it gives you a lot of ult haste. It's basically like playing with Mandate, but you get the tank stats instead of the ability power, but you don't get the 35 haste for your Q. You only get 10 haste for your Q. You don't ever really get to use the passive at all, so I don't really like Seeks at all, but kinda can be used in very niche cases, but I don't like it at all. In my head, nothing is better than these 2 builds. I'm always gonna really run with this build. It's more fun for me. It feels more like BARD. I'm faster. I do more damage. Overall, it is really good. I've been rambling for a long time now about a lot of different items. Hopefully, this catches you up to date of what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, why I'm not doing it, and why I am doing other things. As you can see down in the left corner, we have an Opera GX sponsor right now. Would mean the world to me if you guys would download and install that to support the stream. I get like $3 per single person doing that, so that would really support me if you want to do that. We have a Discord server where we talk about League of Legends. We answer all questions we can. We also talk about other games. We just hang out and we have fun together. And of course, I stream basically every day on Twitch. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Peace out.